and thank you for joining us for another episode of Modern Living with Dr. Angela. I'm your host, Dr. Angela Tester. Today's episode is dealing with commitment phobia. Most people know that relationships are fairly uneasy. We've been making friends they're fairly easy. However, some people have a very difficult time. We've been making friends since, mommy and me class, since being in kindergarten, high school, and even in college. But again, sometimes it's not easy. For many, however, relationships also are not easy. In fact, they are such a challenge to some individuals that a person can be said to have a relationship anxiety or even suffer from what we call commitment phobia. Commitment issues in relationships are nothing new, but it is a very real experience that comes from anxiety and fear. So thanks for joining us as we talk about this relationship anxiety known as commitment phobia. Today's sponsors are blessingsallaround.com, I Do Radio, and inspirationalproductions.org. Be sure to check them out on social media. They can be found on Facebook at facebook.com/inspirationalproducts, and of course on YouTube at youtube.com/Edward Tonini, and that is Edward Tonini. Commitment phobia is a very painful experience, both for the one who is engaging in the patterns as well as for those who are involved with the person. Usually the art of the pushing and the pulling and the seduction that we have in a relationship can cause some people to have a phobia. The answer dwells deeply in family origin survival patterns. And don't worry, we'll go over that a little bit more later. Commitment phobia is something that I've seen in my office many times. And yes, it happens to both men and women. The key piece is fear of intimacy and of deep emotional connection. People who are commitment phobic feel that they need to cut off their feelings after a certain period of time of knowing someone. It's a means of feeling that they are in control and that they feel that they can protect themselves emotionally. This is often not conscious, and it goes to a very deep level of their subconscious. You'll even hear them say sometimes, I don't know why I do what I do. Well, you can spot a commitment phobe a mile away if you know what you're looking for. But if not, it is not at all obvious to just a bystander. Now, they are deeply involved in the thrill of the hunt. The person who's phobic, they love that challenge. It is a key part of the experience, of this relationship experience for them. But once they get the person, it becomes less interesting to them. They begin the process of keeping score. They are looking for perfection, which is what they inaccurately feel will make them happy, in control, and ultimately feel safe. But when they find that someone that they really like, they start that push and pull journey. The person that fills you with sweet nothings, and then they don't want to call you for 4 days. Yep, we all know that person. When the commitment phobic person is there, they are thinking in the back of their minds at any given moment, where's the back door? What do I need to do to get out of this relationship? A commitment phobe says, oh, I'm not here for the long time, but I'm here for a good time. We find that through therapy that many times this person has done this repeatedly, and he or she suffers from loneliness, yet he or she cannot move away from this pattern. They may come from a divorced family. She may have grown up in a single-parent home, or perhaps they find that they have been just immersed in a rocky childhood, that at any given moment in their growing up years, they were uncertain about the next moment, about where they would live, about who would care for them, so on and so forth. So he is constantly working to diminish any, if not all, future pain. She needs to feel one step ahead in his relationship in any given moment. So what happens? The person becomes deeply consumed with not being trapped by a woman or by a man. The person perceives any form of intimacy as a setup. Now, sometimes it can get a little bit confusing with the he or she. So please pardon me if I say he or just she. This applies to both sexes. Look out for people that you're dating that are constantly looking at other people while you're out on a date. Yeah, you know the type. Their eyes are constantly rolling. When someone walks by, oh, wow, yeah, girl, you don't want that in your life because that's a sign that they're not committed to you. Also be mindful that the commitment person is a born salesperson and that they can spin a web and tell you a story that's unparalleled. What is actually happening is that they are usually covering their lies with this invented story. The truth is, when I work with a commitment phobic person, I realize that they themselves many times are not in the question. So, why do you think you're doing this? And like I said, 9 out of 10 times their answer is, I don't know, or I'm not sure. They are very cut off from their own emotions, as it's very scary for them, and sometimes even extremely scary for them. It takes a deep, authentic truth and reality to kind of wake them up. It takes a real happening to sometimes get their attention, like for them to really and truly find that there's someone that they like, someone that they want to be in a relationship with, and perhaps that person does to them what they've been doing to people all along. That can be a real wake-up call for them sometimes. But it is nearly impossible for them to face this type of emotional delving and truth. It can be very disheartening for the person who's in the relationship with them. Well, we're going to take a very short break, and when we get back, we will continue to look at a commitment phobe. What does this person look like, and what can you do if you're the commitment phobe? We'll be back right after this.
Refresh your spirit with the inspirational contemporary worship music of Edward Tonini.
You've been searching.
His original songs feature timeless themes from Scripture in a pleasing variety of musical styles.
Can't find the cure for
Hear his beautiful voice and outstanding Christian music today at inspirationalproductions.org.
There is a river I know, a healing water that flows, bringing us new life.
And we are back. Thank you for joining us for another episode of Modern Living with Dr. Angela. I'm your host, Dr. Angela Tester. Today's episode is dealing with commitment phobia. A lot of commitment phobic people tend to grow up in a volatile or addictive family, or in a family where the parents have a loveless or even silent relationship. In either scenario, there is that feeling of tension, of constant tension, of unhappiness, of dissatisfaction, and uneasiness that everyone just wants out of. In the case of the loud or even volatile family, there's a lot of insecurity, especially if there's children in that household. the child can feel that even though they may not have the vocabulary to articulate their feelings. They never know what's happening that day or even the next day. They don't know the mood of their mother or the mood of their father or what's going to happen. And if you add other layers of an addictive personality to this type of family, each layer brings on a different consequence. These people were brought up to be constantly looking over their shoulder, to have one foot in and one foot out of the door. Can you imagine being a child and being completely unsure if you could trust the actions of your mother or of your father? This child feels that they're in a constant state of emotional panic, and sometimes it can even develop other possible problems. This volatile and unstable home creates a neural pathway belief system that to be committed is almost a crazy action, that by default they choose to be commitment phobic because they're unsure, because they're not certain, because they just don't know what that other person's going to do. So they choose to protect themselves. If they don't become fully committed, then they can't become heartbroken. Why am I going to commit when it's only been unsafe to commit to people that I'm supposed to trust and relax around? And when you look at it from that point of view, it helps you understand why they're a commitment phobe. For those who grew up in a silent or even a loveless or inexpressive home, they didn't have role models for a healthy, committed adult relationship. So, of course, what's going to happen? They have no idea what it feels like or what it even looks like to be in a healthy, emotionally bonded relationship. So what are some signs of a commitment phobic person? Let's start our list. Number 1, he only seems to respond to contact that you make that's sexual. Yep, he regularly ignores your texts, your calls, your emails. You suggested going out for a movie night, time with your friends, or perhaps lunch or dinner, yet quickly replies to anything sexual. There is a chance that this person only has fun, and no strings attached on their mind, and doesn't mind keeping you around for the only thing that they actually enjoy, sex. 2, he or she has too many reasons not to friend you on Facebook. Oh, yes, Facebook. Any social media for that matter. But the stats tell us that Facebook can make or break a relationship. So when a person doesn't allow you into their world on Facebook, it could be a sign that she's resisting commitment to you. If his relationship status is set to ask me, or even worse, there's no answer listed at all, as opposed to in a relationship, that's a sign. Facebook is a telltale place for making sure that the world knows that the two of you are in a relationship and that that person is proud to have you in their life. Why? Because if he is proud and happy to have you in his life, he doesn't fear you appearing in his newsfeed or tagging him in pictures or commenting on any of his posts. She is in her late 30s, or even worse, he's in his 40s and has never been married. A man has plenty of time to find the right one and to settle down. If by chance he or she is about 38 years old and still lives at home, or perhaps tells you that his mom lives with him, but that's the house he grew up in, that's a sign that you should definitely be aware of. Most men, and especially men, And women as well want to leave home in their 20s. They want an apartment of their own so that they can date freely and come and go as they choose. 4, she talks about men in a way that actually makes you feel uneasy or even queasy to your gut. But men have a tendency to do this a little bit more than women as far as being in front of their significant other. So ladies, start listening to what he is saying and how it makes you feel. Men, if by chance she says something and it makes you think, wait a minute, what did she say? You have to listen to that voice in your head and don't make any excuses. Oh, well, maybe she'll stop. Oh, well, maybe he'll stop. The thing is, you should stop. You've been given intuition for a reason. Listen. It's a red flag, a warning signal. 5, he rarely asks you about your life or how you are. And if he does, it seems like it's just a pleasantry, kind of like in passing, and he doesn't really want to listen to your answers. That's something that is extremely important, women. We are emotional beings, it's true. And one way that we feel invalidated is emotionally. You want someone who wants to be emotionally invested in your day. Perhaps dumping and constantly venting isn't the best route, but you do want someone who's interested in your day. 6, she ignores your birthday even when you tell her that your birthday's coming up soon. Or perhaps he ignores you or maybe dumps you and it's Christmas. A client of mine once drove me absolutely up a wall and could not see that this particular person was never going to commit. It wasn't that the person was making me frustrated on a personal level. Just frustrated for that person because they didn't quite see the signs. And I wanted them to see the signs sooner rather than later. So working with them a little bit longer each session, having them come in a little bit more frequently so that they could have the wool pulled from over their eyes. This was the statement. Told me I was his girl. Yeah, well, his actions don't follow up. If she says that she's your girl, but she flirts with everyone around her, and I mean flirts, maybe that's not your girl. If he's looking at every woman that passes by and commenting on her front or back half, maybe that's not your guy. 7, his words are sweet, but his actions are sour. Simple. Don't be dumb, because you're not a dummy. We all fall for a man's words, ladies. It's true. Some of us have even fallen for it more than once. But we were kind of designed to. And here's what I mean. We like smooth words. It makes it easy for us, for lack of a better phrase, put in the mood, if you know what I mean. But that's a great thing for human nature. It allows us to pass on our genes and have more human beings created about every 9 months. So be good to yourself and give the right man your attention. Give him your ear, not the guy who's just trying to practice with you, if you understand what I mean. Do that, and you'll wind up a happier person. 8, he often responds to you with defensiveness or deflects questions with verbal abuse. Defensiveness and verbal abuse are 2 things that are extremely difficult for a woman to have to deal with in any relationship. But even if you're a man, you shouldn't have to deal with any woman verbally abusing you either. Ideally, the person that you're in a relationship with should be centered. They should be strong, and they should be willing to take full responsibility for themselves and think about the things that they do and not be abusive. No one has the right to abuse another. 9, the person blames you a lot. I know some men and some women constantly blame the other for things that go wrong in their lives. There's a legitimate reason for this, though. It's probably what their parents did, or they're trying to articulate what they saw growing up. They can't handle it. They don't know what to do because they've never been shown or taught what to do. So what happens? They simply fall apart and blame the other person. And last but not least, number 10, he looks down on other married couples. If a man talks badly about men who are married or who are taking care of their kids, then it's a pretty good sign that he doesn't care much about deep, turned off by the idea of family and prefers to be alone. Ladies, no, you're not going to change his mind. Not you, but perhaps his therapist. Well, we're going to take a very short break, and we'll be back right after this.
Planning the wedding ceremony of your dreams, you need blessings all around. Whether a grand affair or simple and elegant, Blessings All Around has a ceremony to meet the needs of every couple. Religious, interfaith, civil, and spiritual ceremonies available. Blessings All Around, located in downtown Long Beach.
I Do Radio, Wedding Planning with Reverend Angela. Wedding Planning Radio at its very best. When planning your wedding, we know that you want all the information that you can get. Tuning into I Do Radio is your first step in getting that expert advice. I Do Radio. We discuss all aspects of planning your wedding ceremony, from how do I write my own vows to how do I choose an event planner. If you have a question, she'll have the answer. See you there.
We are back. Thank you so much for joining us for another episode of Modern Living with Dr. Angela. I'm your host, Dr. Angela Tester. Today we are talking about commitment phobia and how it can affect both men and women, what it looks like, what it sounds like. But last but not least, we're going to go over, so what are some tips that I can give you, and what are some things that you can do? You can engage in the present moment. Be right here. Be right now with the person that is in front of you. See what's good and right in your relationship. Stop focusing on the negative and start focusing on the positive. Know and accept that nothing and no one is perfect. No one's ever going to be perfect. You're never, ever going to find that person that does something correctly 100% of the time. 100% of the time. Why? Because people are human. People err. They don't mean to, but it happens. Don't set yourself up for unnecessarily being disappointed. Become aware of how your parents did it and find ways to do it the opposite way. If you find that what your parents did is wrapped in a negative cloud, pay close attention to that, not to learn to do it that way, but to take such great notes so that you make sure that you don't do it that way. And that goes with any part of their relationship. That's how we have an understanding of how we are supposed to speak to one another, how we are supposed to interact with one another. Relationship with money even. If your parents were horrible with money, they taught you by default to be horrible with money. If your parents are really great communicators, they're teaching you by default to be great communicators. What you have to do is acknowledge that information, acknowledge that resource, and take that on as gospel, the positive, not the negative. And one more thing you can do is practice soothing self-talk to calm yourself when you're feeling anxiety. Your instinct is to run, fight, or flight. You want to escape the intimacy, oftentimes because you don't know what to do, and it causes you to feel anxious or to have an anxiety attack for many people, depending on the level of anxiety that you have. So you have to start practicing those statements or mantras that bring you back to a more centered and balanced place. Don't know how to do any of that? Okay, there's a therapist in your area that can definitely help you no longer be a commitment phobe. If you happen to be anywhere near the downtown Long Beach area, we'd be more than happy to assist you. We assist Los Angeles County and Orange County residents. Being downtown Long Beach puts us in the perfect place for people that are in the OC. We're just located near the Queen Mary. Yep, the historical ship. It's a beautiful place, downtown Long Beach. You can give us a call. The number is 562-209-2083, 562-209-2083, or visit us on the web at www.newlifepastoralcounseling.com, and we'd be happy to assist you. We hope that you have enjoyed this episode, and we would love for you to come back and visit us every Tuesday. We can be found on Blog Talk Radio, iTunes, SoundCloud, Spreaker, and YouTube, helping you with your mental health. Until next time, have a very wonderful day, and we hope to see you next time. Bye-bye.